Welcome to We Zombie City Tours. Advanced civilizations used to live where you live. The evidence is all around us, hidden in plain sight. Our ancestors were pyramid builders, experts at transporting and building with heavy stone, aka masonry. Their faces and their logos are engraved in stone all over our cities, and their pyramids still surround us. Now here's some more ridiculous claims. There's a single God that created you, me, the world, and all things in it, and he created a specific location of land that he deems better than all other locations of land. And he promised this land to a man named Abraham and all his children for forever. This is why we've all heard the phrase, the promised land. And the land we currently call USA is the land God promised to Abraham, and our cities and our mountains are actually the proof of it. And God promises that it will remain the most blessed land on earth as long as its inhabitants follow Jesus Christ. And if they don't, it gets cursed, destroyed, and given away to somebody else. So let's look at the fruits. Is the most choice land prospering, or is it being deteriorated and given away? If you're curious, enjoy the vids. If you're not, I'm sure I'll hear from you in the comments telling me how dumb I am. Either way, dig deeper, explore your city, and most importantly, explore your God. Ask him questions and study his word. Welcome, zombies. Today we're looking at Concord, New Hampshire. Concord is the capital city of the state of New Hampshire. This is it over here on the far east coast in this little small state right before you get to this last state in the country over here, which is Maine. When I got to the Capitol building, a guy walked out of the building. We started talking and we ended up having dinner, and it got dark. So I wasn't able to get a ton of videos and photos of stuff, but honestly, it was a better, more unique experience because, just to put it simply, he confirmed a lot of, this was right during 2020 stuff, by the way, and he just confirmed to me that it's all bunk. And what I said to, he asked me some questions, and I said, I don't believe any of it. I think it's all just yappers in the media trying to get us to do things that they want us to do that are not good for us to do. And he just looked at me, he's like, you're a smart guy. And then he changed the subject. So like anyways, I'm not gonna say like who he is or what but he works in the Capitol building. So, and after that, I went and walked the Capitol grounds a little bit, and a police officer gave me a private tour of several of the buildings, including the Capitol building, and he showed me some unique stuff that I think a lot of people don't get to see. So I'll throw that into this video. And then also one of the main things we're going to be looking at in this video is the eagle right here. If you're American and you're watching this video, you know that the eagle is a very, very common symbol that we use in the United States of America. But why? Where does that eagle actually come from? What does that symbol actually mean? I'm going to be talking about that in this video as well. And the eagle is actually part of the ancient covenant that God made with mankind. And then there's also an ancient conspiracy that the devil made against mankind. And for a very full, thorough presentation on what exactly I mean by all that, I created a presentation called The Stone Woman, which I put on the We Zombie Rod of Iron channel. It's 12 videos, and it's super, super in-depth. So if you want, and I go through a lot of the scriptures, and I look at a lot of our different cities and buildings and architecture. We talk government, we talk banks, a lot of different stuff that I get into in that presentation, and it all comes together in a really nice explanation of, oh, that's what's going on in the world. And so I highly recommend you check that out. These are the 12 videos right here. I definitely recommend watching them in order 1 through 12. Part of what I break down in that whole presentation, what we're going to be looking at in Concord, New Hampshire, is that this heavy stone masonry architecture actually is from that ancient covenant. It has to do with that ancient covenant that God made with mankind, specifically Abraham and Jacob, named Israel, and Joseph of Egypt. And the eagle is part of that covenant, which I'm going to break down. And I believe that the civilizations that built this architecture is the civilizations from the scriptures. We're shown poor dirt rag people when we're shown and told those stories. But if you actually go read the text in those books, it's not saying these are poor dirt rag people. It's saying these are advanced, prosperous people, amazing at designing products and architecture and that sort of thing. So I break all that down in the Stone Woman presentation. Like I also mentioned, the ancient conspiracy is the devil's plans to pretend to be God and to destroy while telling us that everything's okay. And so we're going to be looking at, and that's where the lies about these buildings come from, and the pillaging and demolishing of them. So we're going to be looking at some of that as well. So first we're going to take a look at the New Hampshire State House. This is the Capitol building of the state of New Hampshire. Some states have state houses, not Capitol buildings. This is one of those states where they have a state house. And it says that the state house was designed in 1814 and the building was built between 1816 and 1819, just 3 years. That's one of these things, this architecture is way too heavy and way too masterful to be built on dirt roads by poor people who don't know how to really build stuff and are living in log cabins. And the whole story that we're told about these buildings is false. And they often give rapid timelines of how fast these things got built, which are just impossible in so many ways. So we're getting a 3-year timeline. And then it also talks about the eagle, but it says there's the eagle that's up there now, and there was a previous one before that, and that eagle was destroyed. They use the word raised to say destroyed in 1818. And I got this little pamphlet while I was there, and it says the original eagle, dedicated in 1818, weighed 600 pounds. A 600-pound eagle at the very, very top of this huge dome when these people were poor and living in log cabins and dirt and were just starting to plant some crops to eat food. Like, it doesn't make sense that they were moving around this heavy of stuff. In fact, not only does it make sense, it's very impossible. And then they always do this too. So like, oh, there was this big, huge 600-pound one, and everything nowadays is cheaper, lighter, and lesser. And that's exactly what happened, is they replaced it with a replica eagle that's only 250 pounds. Now let's take a little bit deeper look at the eagle, the symbol, and what it means. And a big part of the Stone Woman presentation is I explain what are all these symbols, these strange symbols engraved in permanent stone, super heavy stone all over the country that we don't understand. The eagle is obviously a symbol of the United States of America. This is inside of the Nebraska Capitol building. And you'll see right here, this is God depicted, a huge pillar behind him. And then he's holding a rod, and there's this eagle right here, a huge eagle with God. Why is there an eagle depicted with God? And then over here on top of this tower is the Stone Woman. She's a very common person and symbol that's shown on all of these buildings everywhere, which is why I named the presentation on the We Zombie Rod of Iron channel the Stone Woman, because she explains really what's going on with this architecture. This is also inside the Nebraska Capitol building. Each of these doors apparently weighs 750 pounds. And it's super light and easy to open them. They're perfect. And it's like, well, poor people make this stuff? Like, that doesn't make sense. We're supposedly the most advanced and richest and prosperous civilization there's ever been nowadays in 2026. And we're not doing stuff like this. And especially these whole buildings made out of super massive heavy stone, we're not doing that. And this Egyptian style eagle right here with these Egyptian style people below it on these 750-pound doors and these huge marble pillars. And this image that I showed you right here, you can see it's right in front of the doors right there. So just some very odd, strange artwork and completely masterful. These are all super, super tiny tiles right here making up this artwork. And the whole building's made out of super heavy, massive stone, but the story goes that they just did it all on dirt roads and they never paved any roads and they didn't have any stones to pave roads. Like, doesn't make sense because they definitely had stone in abundance and were capable of moving 10 to 40,000 pound stones and hundreds of thousands and millions of them. But they never needed a road to do any of that. And then if you look on the exterior of the Nebraska Capitol right here at the very top of the dome, you'll find the eagle right there, that Egyptian styled eagle. And then this man up here they call the sower, which has to do with the parable of the sower from the scriptures, from the Bible, which I also break down in the Stone Woman presentation. And right here is another spot on the exterior of the Nebraska Capitol, huge stone eagle right there depicted, masterful stone artwork. And then you've got the fasces right here, which is also related to the sower that sits on the top of this building. The parable of the sower from the Bible talks about the wicked being bound in bundles and tossed in the fire. That's what the fasces is. It's the wicked, it's the symbol of the wicked being bound in bundles, tightly bound in bundles, ready to be cast in the fire. And the reason there's often an axe with it, as you can see right here, is because the axe is a symbol of God cutting down the trees that do not produce good fruit, the wicked that don't produce good fruit, the wicked that produce evil fruit. Cut them down with the axe and they get cast in the fire. So the bundle of sticks, the fasces, bound tightly with the axe, is all a symbol of God destroying the wicked and casting them into the fire. You'll also notice right here, and we'll read the verse now about where the eagle, what the eagle is actually all about, but here we get another good look at, here's this big huge eagle flying with this wagon and these people right here that are, seem to be traveling somewhere. And you'll also notice, interestingly, that there's a camel right here, which isn't that supposed to not be part of the United States of America? Isn't that an animal that doesn't exist in these lands? I would say that was an animal that did exist in these lands. And so if we read Exodus 19:4 from the Old Testament, you see right here, "Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians." So if you read the Old Testament, the Israelites, God's people, are being held captive in Egypt, and the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, is making them, basically has them enslaved. They're just working and laboring constantly and they're not free. And what God does, this is the story of Moses parting the Red Sea, and they go across on dry ground, and then the sea crashes again and kills Pharaoh's armies. Okay, well then God explains to them that ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, destroyed them, and I brought you out of bondage and brought you to me and then to the promised land. And he says, and how I bear you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. So the eagle, and America is known as the land of the eagle because America is the promised land. It's where God brought the Israelites when he escaped them out of Egypt. And the symbol of him doing that, taking the Israelites to the promised land, is the eagle's wings. I bear you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. This is where this old architecture comes from. This is where the symbol of the eagle comes from. This is the promised land, the land promised to Abraham, Jacob, and Joseph of Egypt. I break all this down super thoroughly, reading through the scriptures, all the scriptures that explain this in the Stone Woman presentation. Topeka, Kansas, another stone eagle right here, incredible stone artwork. Another one on the same building, and then you also have this image of an Egyptian engraved in stone in Topeka, Kansas. Kansas. Egyptians engraved in stone in Kansas. Here's the building that all that's on. You can see the eagle right here, another eagle down here, and then there's the Egyptian person right there, and a lot more of Egyptian artwork. And then up here, this is another symbol that I talk about. It's just another one straight from the Old Testament. Right here, this kind of vase bowl type of thing. And then up here, all this wreath work is also just straight out of the Old Testament. Another one in Topeka, Kansas, different building, eagle right here, wreath work right here, shield up here, all symbols straight from the Old Testament. Goodland, Kansas, this is a very cool chair that I found where you'll see the Egyptian eagle depicted again. Kansas, Egyptian eagles. Boston, Massachusetts, you can see right here this incredible, super insane post office. Like, we're gonna look at another post office in this video that's just like, these are post offices? This is just for mailing stuff around, like you're building castles for that? And then on top of here, you also see the Stone Woman depicted. She's always robed, and she's always holding some of her most common symbols are the sword of truth, and the scales of equity and justice, or justice and mercy. And she's always robed. Why is she robed? And why are the men on all these buildings also robed? What are the robes about? Nelson, Ohio, we got the stone eagle right here on top of this tower. Montpelier, Vermont, got this eagle right here, stone eagle again. Albany, New York, huge stone eagle right here, very, very big stone eagle with a whole bunch of ancient symbolism behind it. And this one specifically is one I get into in the Stone Woman presentation, the sun shining over pyramids, because we'll look at this in this video as well, but we got a lot of pyramids in USA country. And then you'll also notice down here, it's depicting the same thing, the sun shining over pyramids. You got the scales of equity and justice right there, all symbolism that tells a very, very important story. Albany, New York, eagles on top of this huge dome. Adams, Massachusetts, huge stone eagle on top of this granite tower. Adams, Massachusetts, another stone artwork eagle. This is the ones in Norwich, Connecticut. This was a really random find. It's just like on this little thing out on the corner in an intersection, but it's just this massive gold eagle right here. And then this is in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Big stone eagles right here, clutching arrows. And then there's another tower right next to it that has the eagle on it also. And that sits on this incredible stone bridge right here. Just perfect masonry. And that is the entrance to what you look at right here, which is the Pennsylvania Capitol in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And it is just a wild stone complex of just insane ancient masonry. This is on the Wisconsin Capitol building. You've got these men in robes, and they're also armored up. And right here, you've got the eagle depicted. So who are these people? Why are they wearing robes? And why is the eagle always showing up with them? Because God escaped the Israelites out of Egypt to the promised land on eagle's wings. Madison, Wisconsin right here. This is near the Capitol building. This is one of like the buildings on the Capitol grounds, and you'll see huge stone eagle right there, and also some pyramids. Several pyramids depicted over and over and over again alongside the eagle. Des Moines Capitol. This is in Des Moines, Iowa, the capital city of Iowa. Down here you've got some eagles, and then also up here you've got an eagle on top of the shield. Denver, Colorado. This is one of the Capitol ground buildings. You see the big gold eagle up there, and the wreathwork artwork engraved in stone right there on this huge tower with a bunch of these pillars, these Corinthian columns. Here's a look at that building backed out. Very impressive architecture. Salt Lake City, Utah, when you're driving up to the Capitol building, you go through this gate right here, and you have an eagle standing on a beehive. Beehive because Promised Land is referred to in the Old Testament as the land of milk and honey, and the United States is the land with the most honeybees. Utah Capitol building, so now we're inside of the Capitol building. Huge eagle right here. Brass, I think probably in this case, maybe gold. Also right here in Salt Lake City, this is on the Salt Lake City Temple grounds called Temple Square. It's like the Mormon headquarters, and you got this big, huge stone eagle right here on top of this tower in front of this castle right here. Inside of the Joseph Smith Memorial Building in Temple Square in Salt Lake City, once again, a stone eagle inside of some wreath work. Now we're in San Diego, California. You see this Egyptian guy depicted over here out of stone, and on the top of the building right here, eagle's wings. Los Angeles, California. This is inside the City Hall in Los Angeles, and you've got the stone woman right here, blindfolded, clutching a sword, the sword of truth that doubles as the scales and balances of equity and justice. And then you'll also notice the eagle depicted right there, and also some men wearing robes. This is on the Los Angeles Times building. Very cool stone eagles. And then also on that same building, you see this guy armored up, holding the sword of truth, stabbing the serpent in the head. And behind him is the eagle flying, because the eagle is a symbol of God and how God broke his covenant people, the Israelites, out of bondage and brought them to the promised land, which is now called the United States of America. Riverside, California, huge eagle right here, stone eagle on top of this shield. Fresno, California, you got this ancient guy depicted on top of this star right here. And this right here in the middle is also an eagle depicted. California capital, so now we're in Sacramento, California, and we got a big, huge eagle, stone eagle on top of a shield, and also the robed stone woman right here. This is in Napa, California, on an old post office that's been shut down. Incredible eagle right here, stone eagle, clutching arrows. And here's the building, what it looks like. Just completely boarded up, out of use now. And you've got more interesting artwork, Old Testament symbolism up here, ram's head, which the ram is related to animal sacrifice, and our post office is about sacrificing rams. I mean, what's that about? Monterey, California. This is a huge tower on top of a hill and a big eagle on top of it right there. Monterey, California. Right here again, the eagle depicted alongside a civilization that looks nothing like us, and also armor. And then you also see the fasces right here, which is the wicked being bundled up and cast in the fire. Right here you've got the scales of justice and mercy, and then an owl right there. So that is what the eagle is. It's a representation of God bringing his people to the promised land. It's the symbol of the promised land. It's a symbol of the covenant that God made with his people. Now here's a look inside what they call the basement of the State House, which you can see it's all just this brickwork. And is it the actual basement, like the very bottom? I mean, I think these things are buried and go much deeper, but this is what they currently call the basement. And you'll see there's just a tremendous amount of brickwork inside of here. They painted it this weird green color for whatever reason, but just a lot of, I mean, there's some much bigger stones right here that you can see as well, but some very big stones, a lot of bricks. And then there's also these huge granite pillars down here as well. Really cool just to see some of this stuff that not a lot of people get to see. And this was when everything was closed down. So it was very strange to get this private tour when no buildings were open, because everybody was supposed to be locked down at home and all that stuff. But still some security on the grounds, and one of those officers asked if I wanted to see some stuff, and I said, yeah, I sure do. So passing it along, pretty cool to see some of this stuff down here. And this one right here was my favorite, because there's this big beautiful stone arch right here. I mean, you can tell this is used to be very nice, but they've turned it into like a storage room type of thing. And then this is a different building. It's one of the buildings on the Capitol grounds, but it's not the State House. And he talked to me a little bit about this roof right here, which is slate, some stone right there for the roof, slate. And it's on top of copper. So there's like copper sheeting, I guess, and then the slate sits on top of the copper. Now we'll take a look at right here at some demolition that has occurred, some pillaging. So you've got this building right here that had this big dome on it, but now when you look at it, nothing on top of it anymore, just completely flattened on top. Very common to see towers and domes and just a lot of stuff that pokes off the top of these buildings. They get removed, they get stripped. I mean, oftentimes, like the number of buildings that they fully demolished is in the millions. It's really wild when you start to add it up. Here's a look at what is the State Library right here. Big, huge stone, like tremendously heavy stonework right here. And if you pay attention, the top is very flat, except for this triangle right here. And if you look at an older picture of it, well, it used to have a different tower on it, but for some reason, these towers, it's important to pull them off and get rid of them. And then this is a very interesting take at some demolition, because there's this mountain right here that they call the Old Man of the Mountain. And it was this face that used to stick out of the mountain. And I believe that a lot of our mountains, and I'll show you some of this in a second, is just old stone architecture. It's old pyramid architecture and just masterful masonry. Nowadays, it all just gets called mountains and hills and stuff like that. But many times across the United States of America. If you just pull the dirt and the shrubs up, it's pyramid architecture. So I believe that's what's going on here with this old man of the mountain. Is this is just, these mountains is just old stonework from ancient masons. And they depicted people just like we're seeing on these buildings that we look at. Well, the mountains as well, they depicted people on their pyramids. And it's a symbol to the Mohawk people. And one thing I break down in the Stone Woman presentation, I'm not going to get into it right now, but is that the Native American Indians are the seed of Joseph of Egypt that escaped from Jerusalem in about 600 BC and came and settled these lands. And when the British Empire and all that showed up and they were living here, that's why they were here, is because they were brought here. God has this ancient covenant of bringing the seed of Abraham and Jacob and Joseph back to a covenant location, back to the promised land. And that's who the Native American Indians are. And if we read right here, it says that a New Hampshire native once wrote, "Men hang out their signs indicative of their respective trades. Shoemakers hang out," and there's just so much to explain about this stuff. That's why I made that Stone Woman presentation. Signs. It's talking here about signs, and signs are a huge deal. I break down signs and what that's all about, but they're lying through signs all the time. And so they're saying right here, signs are indicative of their respective trades. Shoemakers hang out a gigantic shoe. Jewelers a monster watch. A dentist hangs out a gold tooth. But up in the mountains of New Hampshire, God Almighty has hung out a sign to show that he here makes men. And it says that this old stone man, this stone face, was New Hampshire's state emblem. It was put on license plates, state route signs again, on the back of New Hampshire's statehood quarter, on the quarter, the coin. And before its collapse, which we're going to read about, it could be seen from special viewing areas. So there's some demolition. There's a collapse of this ancient stone masonry face, part of this mountain that was built by advanced masons, and they demolished it. And they try and make it seem like, oh yeah, no, we tried to do good. We did preservation and conservation and renewal. We did all those projects, but somehow it still just ended in demolition, pillaging and demolition like it always does. So freezing and thawing opened up fissures in the old man's forehead. By the 1920s, the crack was wide enough to be mended with chains, and in 1957, the state legislature passed a $25,000 appropriation for a more elaborate weatherproofing, using 20 tons of fast-drying cement, plastic covering, and steel rods and turnbuckles, plus a concrete gutter to divert runoff from above. Nevertheless, the formation collapsed to the ground. They yap and say they're doing good things when they're doing the opposite. Now let's take a look at some more pyramids inside of the United States of America. Royalton, Vermont. This is a big pyramid right here covered in dirt and shrubs. And these aren't old plants. These aren't plants that have been growing for a super long time. This is a cover up fairly recently. I'm not saying within like the past 5-10 years or whatever, but like this shrubbery is not super old. And you can still make out the terracing of the pyramid, and you can see the overall shape of it. And it's like tree planting projects and conservation like type projects that cover up a lot of this stuff. Bennington, Vermont, this big pyramid out here with this obelisk attached to it. Here's another look at it, this huge stone obelisk that just pokes up. Each one of these stones of this obelisk is like 30 or 40,000 pound stone. That's insanity. And it's attached to this hill, which isn't a hill. If you remove the dirt and shrubs, it's pyramid architecture. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Nice pyramid right there, covered up. Denver, Colorado, right here, we got a nice pyramid sitting in ruin. Capitol Reef, we got several pyramids right here sitting in ruin. San Diego, California, pyramid right there. Bunch of pyramids in California. There's this whole thing of like, there's this Mexican border, and south of the Mexican border there's a bunch of pyramids, but north of the Mexican border, once you come into the United States of America, there's no pyramids anymore. It's like, nah, it's all just a continuation. It's all the same thing. The Rocky Mountains, all the mountains in California, this is all just ancient, huge pyramid architecture, just like down in Mexico. And down in Mexico, they're all hills and mountains until you take the dirt and shrub off of them, and it's like, oh, these are pyramids. Wow, how amazing. San Clemente, California. This is Orange County, California, not far from the Mexican border, and boom, here we've got pyramids, like proper pyramids sitting right here. Here's a pyramid. You can very clearly make out the top of this pyramid, and the way I found this is because I was looking at these mountains and I was thinking, these look like pyramids, and so I went and I started to explore them, and wow, there's pyramids. Like, but this is as close as I could get because it's a conservation area. They're taking care of the birds and the worms. They're keeping all those birds and worms safe. They're covering up ancient architecture. Ranchita, California, bunch of pyramids sitting in ruin right here. Fresno, California, bunch of pyramids out here sitting in ruin. Moapa, Nevada, you can see this pyramid right here. You can see it's just ruined ancient masonry. It's stacked stones sitting in ruin. You also have Pyramid Lake in California, which is pyramid architecture, and they show it to you right here, this shape of a pyramid, and then they also show it to you right here. There's this pyramid right here. Of course, they'll tell you some other silly story. It's some government engineering project, or is this ancient architecture from Bible civilizations? Another look at it right here, you can see some pyramid shapes, and this is like if someone's lying down on the ground or on a bed, and you throw a blanket over them, you can't see all the perfect shapes of a person, but you can still make out that, oh yeah, that's the shape of a person. There's a person under that blanket. It's the same thing with our mountains and hills. There's just this blanket of dirt and shrubbery laid on top of them, but if you pay attention a little bit more closely, you can make out the shapes and be like, oh, there's a person under that blanket. That's a pyramid under that blanket. And now here's the old post office in Concord, New Hampshire. Like, they apparently were building castles over and over and over and over again for post offices back then. Or there's some ancient buildings left over from Bible civilizations, and they were expert advanced masons. If you read the text, that's what it says over and over and over again. And this stuff's just sitting here left over from those peoples. And they say, no, it's a post office. There's also this building in Concord, New Hampshire, which is just this huge, incredible stone tower right here. Like, when do we build towers? We're not building. The only towers that exist nowadays is cell phone towers, like not rock stone towers. And this is part of the St. Paul's School. So this is a school. It's a chapel that's part of the school. And here's some other buildings on the campus. So this is inside of that chapel, and it's just absolute insanity as far as architecture goes. 100% stone, some amazing, incredible wood inside of here, like the nicest, finest, heaviest wood, like just stuff that we're not using nowadays. Here's a look at some more of the buildings on the campus, just huge stone buildings. So I'd say this is just, again, ancient architecture that they've repurposed into a school right here. And for a little bonus section right here, I know a lot of people like to think about Antiquitech and consider Antiquitech, and then also what are these fireplaces about, because lots of these fireplaces don't make a lot of sense, and they always have these interesting devices, these interesting products in front of them. And then there's also another fireplace right here that I got on this private tour that I got to take a look at, and it has some very interesting pieces of I don't know what these are, but they're very interesting. And then also right here in this same room, he showed me that and told me that this is original tile work right here. And I mean, look how, like, an incredible amount of these tiny tiles, and they're putting them all together, making these perfect floors. But again, just no stone for roads. And that's one of the biggest, like, tells of something else is going on with these buildings. They come from somewhere else, some different time period, because to be this masterful with stonework, and not just at building these super heavy structures, but if you go inside of them, the floor is tremendous stonework and it's perfect. And so it's like, how did you have that skill set, but you never made a road to haul any of these materials to the construction site, because you need a paved road for 40,000 pound stones.